record. Perfect. So today we're going to be hearing from two presenters about automated library services. Each presenter will do about a 30-minute presentation, and then at the end we'll give them an additional 15 minutes to do a Q&A. And then a short break for another 15 minutes, and then we'll come back for our second presenter around 10:30. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat, and then we'll address them during the Q&A later on. And then we also encourage everyone during the Q&A to turn on their mics and go ahead and ask your questions. Today we have Michael from Unique. Michael is the Director of Content and Communication, and he'll be covering how Unique interacts with patrons at various points through their journey, starting with finding the library, using Unique Mover services, using regular communication to expand patron involvement, such as message bee, and then answering routine questions through services such as patron services, calls and chats, and then special services like curbside communicator and data services. So Michael, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Amna. Good to see everyone. It's been a while since we've had sort of this video conversation. And it's I'm seeing a lot of names that I recognize as well. So it's good to see you again. Yeah, the main things that we're doing here at Unique are all about increasing staff efficiency and patron engagement. Most people really know who Unique is already. We've been working with you for close to 30 years. We're a longtime trusted partner through our material recovery program. Most libraries have used us for a very long time and continue to use us. We are patron communication experts as well. As far as I know, we are the only vendor that libraries trust to have actual person-to-person conversations on behalf of the library with the patron. So it says a lot about our team, our training, and just the level of goodwill that we've earned with you over the years. We're really quality focused, innovative, and a pretty fast moving team of the various things that we do. I'll speak a little bit more about that as we go through this presentation. The main things that I want to talk about here are different ways that, as Amina mentioned, how patrons interact with the library. First of all, starting with finding the library, we'll talk about some services for that, other ways to get people more involved, and then handling the routine questions, things that enable your staff to go out and do more. And then, of course, there's more things with Unique. We're always developing new items as well. So finding the library with new movers. Happy to showcase Fountaindale here. This is a postcard that we send out on behalf of Fountaindale Public Library. I'm going to switch over to a different screen here, so you can see this browser window. This is the example library that I wanted to showcase. We know that library tax borders can be really difficult to manage and navigate. Fountaindale is a good example of that. This is a library that we're working with in Washington State right now, Mid-Columbia Library. You can see these shaded sections. Each one means something a little bit different. So they serve two full counties with an exception here in this black area. And then this green section up here, which is a town and a neighboring county. It's kind of hard to figure out, which patrons are part of the library service. So we do the exact same thing here with Fountaindale, whereas if you live on one side of the street versus the other, it's hard to know if you should be part of the library system or not. So we work with them to really identify your service areas, look for people that are moving in, making sure they're not already existing card holders, and then sending out this postcard that I showed you a moment ago. I'll go right back to that. All of these dots up here with the different numbers, I won't zoom in to keep them somewhat anonymous, showcase people that are actually new to the service community that have moved in the last 3 months. So we can kind of zoom in and see lots of people are moving in this section and over here in this town. They're growing like crazy. It says they're expected to double their population in the next 10 years. So they want to make sure that people are really familiar with the library system. In the case of Fountaindale, this is what, there we go. This is what the postcard looks like. The front is there on the left. beautiful building that I love with the unfortunate makerspace in the basement that you can't see easily. And then the backside there. What I like about the card is it's bulleted points about the things that you may not be familiar with the library. Ebooks, movies, been really popular during the pandemic. That Studio 300 I mentioned, if you haven't seen the basement there, please go check it out. The Mango services, the binge concept, lots of kids activities and other ways to stay connected. Most of the libraries we work with have something very similar to this, where it's different bullet points for the things that patrons may not expect with the library. So they can say, hey, this looks interesting, let's go check it out. It's more than just books. And then the tagline there, bring this postcard with your photo ID to the circulation desk to get your free library card today. Yay, free stuff. So you can come in. This goes out on a quarterly basis with Fountaindale. Shows up in people's inboxes. They bring the card into the library and get started. It's pretty simple. Like I said, we compare this with the patron list so that people that already have cards don't receive it. And then we can also compare that at a later date to show attribution as well, to make sure that patrons, to show where those marketing dollars are actually going. Okay. We're going to move past. So now that they're in as card holders, we're going to talk about communicating effectively with MessageBee. Many of you may already be MessageBee users and just not familiar with it. So if you're part of Swan or part of the Pinnacle group, you are MessageBee users, whether you know it or not, because MessageBee is a multi-channel communication format. So we're sending out text messages, automated phone calls, email notifications, and those paper notices. Whenever you send out a bill or something like that that goes out in an actual envelope, that's being done through MessageBee as well. So for Swan, for example, we do those telephone notifications. I think we do the same thing for Pinnacle as well. We integrate with just about every ILS that's out there and make it really simple to level up your notifications. I'm going to hop over to my browser again so you can see some real examples. This is an example that we send for the CLC group, which is Columbus, Ohio libraries that are all Polaris. This is an example of Worthington libraries, what their overdue notices look like. You're familiar with what library notices look like. The tech director there at CLC called them, the old-fashioned ones, kind of ransom notes, how it looks like real plain text. It looks like someone, what do you say, wrote it on a typewriter, faxed it in, and somehow got it in someone's email box. But this is what Worthington's look like. Every branch, what they call branch for Worthington public libraries, can have a little bit of a different template as well. They consider their lockers and their drive-up locations different branches in the system, so they can really customize to provide very clear instructions about, say, a hold notice, because the pickup instructions for a locker notice or a drive-up notice are going to be different than an branch experience. These are all very highly customizable as well. I'm going to hop over to this here. This is a notice that we send for Central Arkansas Library System in Little Rock. They utilize 2 banner ads in here. So this is a hold notice, no, overdue notice, courtesy notice. Something's due and something's renewed. Showing an event at the top. They were really well known pre-COVID they have some great event space in downtown Little Rock. And then something else at the bottom. They change these banner ads out all the time so that you can see different things happening at the library. You can see also in there, they have some curbside service information. And these get changed out on a very regular basis. Something a little bit more applicable to this group. Here's Skokie's notifications that we send out. So showing that this is a hold notice, obviously. Their notices are much more concise. Don't utilize the banner ads that we saw in the top example, but they do utilize some cover art as well. This integrates really simply, so you can see, here's the pickup location, here's when you need to pick it up by, and here's what you're actually picking up. As a parent with a kid cover art's super helpful on these notifications because I don't always know exactly which items have auto renewed and which ones have not. So it's a good way for me to see the cover and know which ones we need to get back pretty quickly. Other examples as well, we talked about text message notifications. We send SMS notifications and MMS notifications. Henderson Public Library or Henderson Libraries in Nevada. This is an example of one that they send. They do integrate the titles into their SMS that's being sent. So here's you can see Green Mile Money Pit. Someone's a big Tom Hanks fan, available for pickup now at this library until this date. We also do MMS messages through MessageBee. This is an example that we send out with Brooklyn Public Library. Again, the cover art's included, all the dates, and there's actual live links in there, emojis, and we integrate with their with the ILS as well, so that the patron can simply text, these items are coming due to renew all, just text back renew all, and we'll provide a confirmation, 1 out of 2 items renewed or 2 out of 2 items renewed, whatever that might look like. Make it a really easy process for the patron's preferred way to communicate through text messages, as many people do now. On this website as well, which I'll provide a link to this in the chat if you're curious, just because these are some real examples of notifications we sent out through MessageBee. We have a swan hold notice there, just an example of so you can hear what those phone notices actually sound like. So like I said, multi-channel, we're sending out in many different formats, making it really easy for you to configure. These are all very customizable as well. Kind of pre-COVID, we assumed a hold notice was a hold notice. Things didn't really change very often. COVID kind of threw that out the door as people had to adapt quickly to new processes. So this button up here for modify editable fields makes it really easy for you to come in here and change the language of this notice quickly. You don't have to turn in an IT ticket anymore for someone to actually come in here and change the wording of the notices. You can do it really quickly. MessageBee is also responsive in terms of providing a desktop view, which for some reason hops down here, or a mobile view as well. So you can see what it would look like on your phone. It's very fully reportable as well, as something that I like to talk about. So we'll look at Worthington's sends for the last week in here. These are looking at all their email sends. So you can see for each specific notice type, how many were sent, when it was opened, if anyone's actually clicking the links in there. Opt-outs, I'll talk about that here in a moment. Successes and then failures. Every once in a while, here's a failure down here that they had. Someone will put their email in bad. They'll put, yada yada at gamil.com or something, just misspell something really easily. We do provide this. You can see the failure button there. If we click on that, there is patron identifying information, so I won't click on it. It'll show you exactly which notice failed to which email address, and you can provide a downloadable report. So frontline staff can follow up with that person and say, hey, your hold notice failed. Let's get your email corrected or your phone number corrected, whatever that might be. For some ILS systems, we actually provide a bounce back into the ILS, so it flags in the ILS account there. We also provide an email summary of this information, so that goes back to other staff just on a regular basis. And also, if that's something that you wanted to have rollover option, so if, say, the email failed, so you wanted to go to SMS, that's something that we could set up for you as well. Click information is pretty important. We can see in here exactly within the last week what types of information that people are trying to find out about the library. As is typical for Worthington, most people are clicking on their link in the catalog, which makes sense. So far, everything we've talked about is transactional emails, has to do with the hold or an overdue, something like that. Hours, that's pretty typical. The banner ad that they had in there is a service, kind of a personal shopper service that they call Library Goods. Within let me hop back in here so you can see what that looks like. You can see the variety of different hold notifications in here as well. Let's actually take a look at the overdues. They have a first, second, and third overdue that they send, and each one kind of changes the language. I like to showcase Skoki's emails as well for this because they have a series of 5. And it just outlines, hey, this item's 3 days overdue or a week overdue. Just please bring it back to the last one as, at this point you have X balance, your card's now blocked, and we just need to get back in touch with you. Or if you use unique material recovery service, that's the next step for you. So you can very clearly outline that information. This library goods service within MessageBee emails, this is the only place that they've advertised this service within these transactional emails, and staff have been really happy with the level of response that they've been getting. Basically, it's say, I like this title, this title, this title. They'll send it out to someone that in the library staff that has similar tastes and say, oh, you need to read this next. And they'll pull 2 or 3 titles, put a grab bag together for someone. So that's how that works. Those banner ads you can change on a regular basis within here. So they don't have anything to replace this with right now, but you can schedule this out in advance. So whatever you want it to look like, if you know your marketing calendar in advance, it's really easy to make those changes. The other thing that I wanted to show you, this is a brand new feature, is talking about dynamic content within MessageBee. So we have this demo account here. We uploaded a list of patrons, for example. The idea is that this syncs with your ILS. You can very easily come in here, create a list of ILS attributes and say, we want to send an email to a certain patron type, or we want these certain ads to show up for a certain patron type or for people with a certain home library. For example, I know like Naperville is a multiple location, so you could have different banner ads for each of your 3 different locations showing up based on someone's home library or last circulation location. You can have different types of notifications or emails going out for people based on their circulation date. It really puts you in full control of what you want to be sending your patrons at any point in time. So that's pretty cool. We can also upload event registration lists and things like that as well. So you can start to see, who showed up to Cindy's story time at Tuesdays at 10 and start promoting different things that they may be interested as well with their kids or as parents, something that might be a little bit applicable for them. So that's the transactional side. We also have list communications as well. List communications would be your newsletters, things that you're probably using a tool like Constant Contact or something like that for. The main difference with MessageBee is that we utilize all that ILS data. So it's not a separate database to maintain. We have all this dynamic content in there as well, so that you can really build and design things customized for your patrons. It's not a prescriptive solution as well. So it's really just lets you do the things that you think are best for your patrons. Okay, that's diving in through MessageBee. I get excited about this stuff and a little carried away. We'll talk about patron services real quick. Patron services really deal with the 80% of questions that patrons ask most frequently. Again, we do this through phone calls and live chats with the goal of resolving 80% of patron outreach and letting your staff do more things. So whenever we talk about the 80% of questions that people have, they typically fall within these areas. There's been a lot of digital media support that we've been doing. We have a tier 2 team that actually handles those types of questions. Pre-COVID, we did a lot of like meeting room reservations, event story time informations, lots of account related questions. Whenever I was working in the office, every week I heard someone calling in, someone repeating back, yes, last night's Powerball numbers were this. Libraries are still a source of information, especially the kind of basic level information we can provide that assistance to. I do mention out of scope here, research and database. There are certain types of questions that are really best handled by reference librarians, obviously, or particular questions that are specialized services. This is a menu of services. It is not a prescriptive solution. So every type of question in here, we can route a different way. So if, for instance, you wanted e-media type questions to come back to the library, if you know you have a team there that's great at answering those, we could do that. Research and database is a clear example where genealogy questions, there's so much local information that libraries hold that it's better handled by you. An example of the chat window, let me hop back over to my browser. I'm going to keep focusing on your library here. Fountaindale, so this right here, ask a question. This is Unique's chat window. So I think everyone knows the answer to this question. But this is one that I've been using as a test question quite a bit. This comes to Unique staff where we can actually answer on behalf of the library. So this will look like just any type of normal staff interaction. Don's been with the company for a long time. He's someone that people are used to knowing about. So very quickly, he'll get back to us. The idea with this, with the chat tool in particular, is that you, just as you would in the library, you come up and find a staff member. Great. And Don even mentions the state mask mandate. So it's, we're up to date on what's going on there in Illinois. Is the idea that you walk up to a staff member and say, hey, I have this question. And if it moves to different areas in the site, for instance, if for some reason we need to go to the catalog, it's really easy. The chat window moves with you. So it's someone where we can actually take that question and just move around the website with you. So if you move over to like the blog, I believe that should pop up on here as well. Oh, great. You're doing free Philharmonic tickets. Yeah, and even as you move over the catalog, that chat window follows you. So it's the exact same thing as a staff person kind of holding your hand throughout your digital branch. Same thing with phone calls. We can route certain options or all calls over to Unique to where we can answer the questions just like this as well. We provide full transparency. So there are logs and recordings and some metadata information. So we provide you with reports of what questions people are actually asking throughout this process. It's pretty interesting and really changes the approach whenever you allow in-person staff to focus on people that are there and the location, as opposed to picking up the phone or sticking with emails. It really changes the level of customer service that you have. I did show on here as well, because we do service libraries East Coast to West Coast. Central's a pretty sweet spot in terms of hours there. We do 7 to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, and have Saturday and Sunday hours, which really we have more hours than libraries typically have. Even Fountaindale's 12 hours today, open 12 hours today. We're doing 13. So it's something like 96 hours a week, I think, is our coverage. So especially in the case of chat, you can have a digital branch with more open hours of service. And I realize I'm running short on time. Most people know us for our material recovery program, which is still applicable today. Many libraries over the course of the pandemic, if you weren't fines free already, have kind of transitioned to being fines free. Material recovery is just that next point of getting people back in the library once you've turned off contact. So you sent that bill, maybe made a couple of phone calls and the patron just hasn't responded. We come in and we assist. We always revise this process to make it really effective and gentle. And we're very fines free supportive as well. So it's if that's not something you're familiar with, feel free to ask more about it later, but most people know us for that. Software and data services as well. The patron address verification, that's something we call NCOA service. Many libraries utilize that on a regular basis to just keep their patron addresses up to date. As part of the material recovery service, we have access to lots of different skip tracing databases just to make sure that if someone moves, we're capturing that. We provide that service for libraries as well. So it's you can look at your patron database and just say instead of making it mandatory for your customers to come in and verify their address every 3 years, we provide that a once annual service, and you don't have to worry about those people that moved out of the area, their cards expiring, or that additional face-to-face time where someone actually needs to show you an ID. Make it really simple. Live chat and curbside communicators software. Many libraries, I know, especially in the SWAN group, have used curbside communicator to help get through the pandemic. The idea being that a patron pulls up, they text in a quick phone number. You can gather all the information that you need to grab their items, check it out, and run it out in the parking lot. That's built on our live chat software, the same thing that you saw here on Fountaindale's website. In addition to Unique answering those questions, you can also enable your staff to use the same tool. We've custom designed it for the way that library patrons will have questions. That we were talking about, the 80% of questions, to trying to resolve those. We can also provide that for your staff to use as well. I know there's several libraries within the SWAN group that do use this for their own service. I believe Oak Park's an example. Let's see here. I think I'm covering everything. So why work with Unique? We're patron service experts. We've been doing this for a long time and having these types of conversations. We're really on the trusted library and vendor, one of the more trusted vendor partners. One thing that I didn't talk about was the flexibility aspect of Unique. That's one of our core values, is making sure that whatever solution we have, it's not a one size fits all. Every library system is unique, and every solution that we have is unique. It keeps my job really busy with proposals and making sure that we figure out the best solution for you. And then always the question is where to learn more. We continuously update our website, uniquelibrary.com. You can always reach out to contact at sales@uniquelibrary.com. I provided you that link in the blog article that gets you to our blog, and our webinars page is on there as well. We have some recent news. We just released an awards program that kind of looking at the different ways that libraries utilize our service. Lots of fun, exciting things happening here at Unique. So keep up with what's going on here.
Thank you, Michael. I know I definitely have questions, but I already saw one in the chat. So I want, if you're ready for the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once again, everyone, if you feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or you can turn on your mics as well, so we can get started with the Q&A. So Jeff from Morton Grove asked about what is the size for the postcard for new residents, and how customizable is it, the postcard for libraries? Yeah,
absolutely. Most libraries choose a 6x9 inch postcard. The one I know that Mid-Columbia is sending is a 4x6. So it's up to you. There are certain size standards: 4x6, 5x7, 6x9. And I think there's a 5x11, which some other businesses will send, which I guess just stands out a little bit more. But it's totally customizable. There are guidelines for each size as far as where you can print, where you can't print for the mailing issues, but otherwise it's totally up to you.
So I was going to ask Michael about going back to the message beat, and I saw at the top you have like for conditions on like who to, I guess, create your email list for. I saw like at the top there was like and, or, and like not, like to not include. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. Like how does that exactly work?
Yeah, let me hop back up the screen to make sure I'm answering this correctly. You're talking about, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this section right here. Yeah, so within the dynamic list, there's what we uploaded was a sample patron database. So it has lots of different fields in it, any of these. And we can add or subtract fields as you might need it to be. But for instance, if you wanted to look at these two conditions. So patron's home library equals Northview is the sample that we came up with. And then their last circulation date is greater than or equal to, say, 90 days. That's something that we could customize a email to be sent to people that fit that criteria. That would be how we use it here. So you can also use the not or to kind of meet other expectations of who you might want to target your email list to. Whenever you do that, it gives you it'll show you a count of how many people are actually in the list that fit that criteria. Let me go to a different demo account and show you kind of what those, like an example of what that might look like. So for instance, say if the Northview branch, I have this, where can I find it? Here we go. So I have this little communication, we sprung a leak at our Northview branch, something like this. And we wanted to send out a quick targeted list of people that just meet that criteria. I am not an email designer. We have the tools in here to make this kind of possible for you. I spent not much time making this look like it does. But it's really easy for you to come in here and design these emails. This type of box looks pretty similar to most what you see is what you get editors. It's really easy to come in here and choose a picture, choose links, all this other information. We set up these templates in advance for you, so most of the hard work is done. You don't have to go in here and pick your fonts and colors and everything to match your branding. But you can very quickly create this email, come up here to send notification or save list communication, schedule that to go out in the future against that dynamic list that you've already built. Does that help?
Yes. No, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and that dynamic list can deal with list based communications, which is something that you can opt out of. This is obviously a service announcement, so it's something that we want to make sure anybody that goes to this notification, anyone that goes to this location would receive. But it can also affect those banner ads or certain language or text that we're putting in the normal transactional communications as well.
Okay, so I have another question for you, Sarah from Monica. I hope I'm saying that right. Do any libraries in Prairie Cat use Unique already? If Prairie Cat doesn't use this, an individual library can sign up on their own. Yes. Question.
That's right. Yeah. So there are some Prairie Cat libraries that use the material recovery service. And I know there are some that are using like Curbside Communicator or Chat Tool. MessageBee is something that we could definitely look at. Within a consortium setting, we can do lots of different things. So it's absolutely something that we could look at. A couple good consortium examples. CLC I mentioned. Every library within that group has their own set of templates and branding. So it's very customized in terms of that. We did that very methodically. So we turned on some libraries to be able to use the MessageBee communications, while other ones continued to send their own notifications. Columbus Public Library is one of the last ones to turn it on. So we just kind of went through with each library at a time. Some library systems, there's a consortium in North Texas where everyone's using the same branding. They want to kind of strengthen the brand of the North Texas Library Consortium. So they're changing all those notifications over to Unique and making them look like the consortium's branding. They changed over because they were having issues with their email deliverability. A lot of education and government type email addresses were just flagging their notifications as spam. We follow some transactional email best practices to kind of get around those, and we don't run into the same issues that some libraries email servers can run into sometimes.
And I can just piggyback off of Sarah's question. So for example, in Pinnacle, because we are 6 libraries, We do, we're the only one that I think has the new mover service postcards, if that's correct, Michael. So we can customize it to the patrons that are new to our library district. Karina from Morton Grove has a question for the postcard. Is the design from a template or designed by Unique or the library? How easy is it to change out information?
So it's totally your design. Was Melissa the one at Fountaindale that designed the postcard there? Yeah, and I don't think it's really changed since you designed that, but for each run of what we do, New Movers, we have a run minimum cost of $500. That's what you can expect as a minimum for New Movers. The design can be changed anytime outside of that. So it's, if you do it once and then want to try something again the next time, that's something we can accommodate. If a library want to do some A/B testing to kind of see which one was drawing more patrons, that's something we could work with as well.
I think the only time we changed the language on it was during the pandemic, and we took away some things that were like in-person programming related.
Yeah.
And stuff, and we're like, here are the services you can use mostly that are online based.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really popular through COVID, particularly as libraries were doing so much outreach program. The first time I saw anything from my library here locally out in the community was a touch a truck event that I brought my son to. You could go, feel a fire truck and see what it was like. They had a booth there set up for people to come learn about the library, sign up and get a card. That stuff's not happening right now. So they don't have booths out there. They don't do any type of billboards or anything else like that. So this is a great way to try to meet people where they're at without actually getting out in the community.
Does anyone have any more questions? Let's see. Well, I know that we've always had with Fountaindale and between Unique. I know I would usually communicate with you, Michael. We always have a really good relationship, especially in terms of like providing us with customer service. You guys are really good at it. And we actually often say that we get the best customer service from our vendors from Unique, because you guys work with us so much through New Mover. And I think we got through New Mover, our chat services. We don't do message fee through you guys yet, but we also still use you guys also for our material recovery system, even after we went fines free as well.
It's interesting. We've done some just partner webinars with some of the ILS vendors and heard feedback that they've, of every library vendor, they've never heard complaints about us versus, their own team. We spend a lot of time and effort on customer service, and there's a small core group that you're used to working with, Terry Lynn or someone else here, and we spend a lot of time and effort just making sure that we're very prompt and courteous and responsible to what you need. So yeah, we treat people well, our customers and the patrons that we represent for you.
And Charlington from Arlington Heights agrees that Unique customer service is amazing.
Thank you.
So if anyone, I don't see anyone, and Schomburg agrees too, from Kathleen Morgan about the customer service.
All these Terry Lynn customers I'm saying, I'll make sure she hears the note.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, for being with us today and giving us the presentation. If there, do you have any contact information in case anyone wants to reach out to you?
Yeah, I'll type my email right now in the chat. You can reach me right there at mker at Unique Library, or I mentioned sales@uniquelibrary.com as well. There's lots of contact us places on the website, or most libraries, any library that has existing services with us right now has a customer contact. So a dedicated person to help you out with. You can always contact them. And if they can help answer your question or get in touch with the right person here too.
And just before you go, I was going to ask, is Unique coming out with anything new that we could look forward to in the future?
Keep an eye on the I showed the MMS messages that we're sending through MessageBee. Lots more kind of communication tools are going in the MessageBee right now. So we have an existing tool called Staff Alert, which has been around for a while. It's not used by a whole lot of libraries. The idea is it makes it really easy for you to send out, say if the library needed to close for some reason, you need to let staff know. Text message has been a great way to do that. We're building those tools into MessageBee as well, so you can send out list-based communications as a text list. Really easy to use, like a staff alert tool, or build out newsletter type things or service announcements and text messages or automated phone calls. Pretty exciting, making it really easy for you to be able to get in touch with both your staff and your patrons through whatever their preferred channel is.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. So now everyone will take a short 15-minute break and come back around 10:30. And so we'll see you then.
Thanks, Amina. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and make you the host as well. So if you're sharing your screen, you can go ahead and do so. So welcome back, everyone. I'm going to jump in with our second presenter. We have Ian Dowie from Patron Point. He's the Vice President of Growth. He's based out of Glasgow, Scotland, and is one of the founders actually of Patron Point. And before Patron Point, Ian was the founder of Collection HQ, which, if you're not familiar with, is a software solution that helps libraries with collection management and performance analysis. And he led that company's internal growth in establishing and overseeing the sales, marketing, and customer success teams around the world. And then in 2011, he sold the company to Baker & Taylor and joined their leadership team based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's when he started to see that libraries were starting to get more serious about marketing, but lacked key tools. So in 2019, Ian set up Patron Point to bring together his passions for marketing, software, and libraries. So thank you so much for joining us once again, Ian. So if you want to go ahead and take it away. And I just want to mention, everyone, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and then we'll also address any in the Q&A after.
Excellent. Good. So can you guys see my screen? Just want to make double sure you can see the presentation. Good. Okay. Masha. Excellent. Okay, thanks very much, Amina. Again, thank you everyone for your time this morning, and thanks to Amina for the opportunity to come and share this with you. So again, Ian Downey from Patron Point. If anyone wants any more information, you can find details on our website or contact me through Amina. So as Amina said, one of the things that we find with Patron Point is libraries are taking marketing more seriously. We spent a lot of time working with public libraries around the world during COVID about how they continue to engage with customers. You know, obviously with the libraries being physically closed, what kind of services do they want? How do you continue to engage customers and talk to them and offer them services? And I think one of the things that we found over the last few years, and it's a consistent theme, is that a lot of your customers in libraries don't really know what the library offers in its entirety. Staff do, and in fact, even that's not always the truth. Sometimes, you know, some of the staff don't even know what the library does in its entirety, but a lot of customers don't really understand what they can do at the library. So the key is about educating and informing and engaging. And as with any membership organization, it's always going to be key to signing up members, telling them everything they can do, and then trying to retain them as members. And that's a really important part of what we're going to do. So patron engagement is all about data these days. It's all about understanding how you use data on your customers to understand who knows what, who's using what, who's not using what, and how you can engage them and target and segment them. So some interesting concepts. Well, as we walk through the presentation, hopefully this will give you some ideas about the types of data you can use to define different groups of customers, and reach them in different ways. So with the data, you can do two different types of activity. The first thing you can do is automation of messaging. So for things like that would be when it's somebody's birthday, send them an automatic happy birthday email. We take that concept further. So when somebody joins the library, when their membership is a new membership, when their record is created in the ILS, you can send an automated welcome sequence of emails. And that means not just a single email, but a sequence of emails that tells them all of the good stuff they can do at the library. Other things, examples of automation would be your ILS notices. We'll explore those in a little bit, and how you can use Patron Point to send your ILS notices to make them look beautiful, and to use to make them a kind of another channel of marketing. Other concepts of automation would be around library card renewal. When someone's card's coming up, somebody's membership's up for renewal, reminding them to renew their card. So again, just using data as triggers to send people either one-time messages or a sequence of messages. And then the other option is then to use that data to define people and create groups of people. We call them segments. So a kind of an idea of a segment might be, for example, people that have never checked anything out from Overdrive, sending them targeted specific messages about how to use Overdrive and the benefits of that. You know, what you don't want to be doing is sending your heavy Overdrive users messages about how to use Overdrive, because of course they already know that, and all you're going to do is tee them off. So by using data to create quite specific groups of people, you can really get targeted messages to them, and that's quite important as well. So the types of data that we're using, so depending on the ILSs that you guys are on, I think we work with maybe 15 different ILSs around the world now, but most of the major ILSs integrate seamlessly with Patron Point, so we can get all the data. And that's a two-way process. So when a record's created or updated in the ILS, it's also updated and created within Patron Point too, on a two-way basis. Other types of information you might want to bring in, as I mentioned, ebook usage. So, you know, different ebook platforms we connect with, Overdrive, Cloud Library, BorrowBox, Axis 360, and others. And what we're starting to see now is a number of libraries are using multiple ebook platforms. So, you know, for you to be able to understand who's using what resources, it's actually becoming quite difficult because the data is appearing in lots of different places. Obviously, other types of digital content, RB Digital, Hoopla, Canopy, Lynda, and the list goes on. So trying to promote those services again to people is trying to understand who's using them, who's not using them. Things like events and programming, room bookings, computer bookings. You know, we get a lot of customers where, you know, some of their patrons really only use the computers in the library. They never really check anything out. But those people are still valuable library members too, and they're getting value from the library also. So being able to hook that data up with Patron Point and communicate those benefits to people are also important. And then finally, the library's website. You know, there's a lot of good stuff on the website. It's trying to understand who's tracking the website, who's visiting pages on the website, being able to push content from Patron Point to your website, creating things like forms, pop-up pages, and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really important to be able to engage customers on your website. So once you've got all that data into Patron Point, you can send people from Patron Point directly emails or SMS messages, so text messages also. A lot of libraries use Patron Point to create newsletters and send their email newsletters out to people. Surveys, another big use. I was just on a call just there with a customer who is trying to really understand what their customers are looking for from the library post-COVID. You know, they used to offer a lot of in-person events, and then during COVID they went to virtual programming. I think they're struggling with people maybe not always coming back into the library as they saw previously. So what they're trying to understand is what kind of blend and what mix of services are their customers looking for. And I think the best way to do that really is to potentially survey customers and ask them questions about what it is they're looking for from the library. What type of services would they like to see? And then we mentioned forms. Forms are things like joining forms on the website, preference forms for newsletters, newsletter sign-up forms, lots of different pop-ups that can appear on the website, giving you the ability to capture and engage with people on the internet. So it's all about building a 360-degree view of your customers and all the activities they've got. You see here that here's some logos of some libraries, and the purpose of showing you this really, and we've got, I don't know, nearly 400 or 500 libraries using the product around the world, but it's the sheer difference in scale. You know, we have some large public libraries, you see down here, Brooklyn and Los Angeles, you know, big urban systems. We've got some very small systems as well. We've also got some large consortia, and we've also got some libraries in different parts of the world on different platforms. So I think the key is here, what we're really looking at is our customers are those libraries that are, we always call them ambitious. They're ambitious to do better. They're ambitious to understand their customers and to engage with their customers and promote all the good stuff the library can do to their customers. And that's really how we categorize them. But lots of people using the product, and Patron Point is only sold to public libraries. So that's our entire universe right there. So really what we've done, I think as Amina said earlier on, is we've taken a concept using marketing automation, because that's really what Patron Point is a marketing automation platform. And we're really looking at how do other industries, other businesses outside libraries use technology to, in the membership type organization, let's say, for example, like a health club, how do they use marketing automation to onboard new customers, engage them through the membership, and then retain their membership? What are they actually doing? How are they using the data? How are they automating those things? Because it works for them, and that's why they do it. And we're thinking, okay, so how can libraries benefit from that too? So what we've effectively done is we've created these things we call proven programs. These are things that you can take out the box that just work, and they work in public libraries, and all of our customers have access to these tools. So in the top left hand here, starting at the kind of 12 o'clock position, we have tools to help you attract new customers and to onboard and welcome new customers. We then have a suite of tools in the orange sector here that help you engage customers once you've got them as a member, and then tools in the top left here to renew and reinstate lapsed borrowers. So the full life cycle of card holders, we've got tools to help you with, and all of these are based on best practice from other industries. And what we're going to do is just explore some of them just now. So the first one's around onboarding. You know, I think one of the challenges, and I mentioned it earlier, is, you know, a lot of libraries assume their customers know what they can do with their new library card when they sign up. But this is a great chance for everybody to receive the consistent message about what they can do with their new shiny library card they've just got. One of the good things is, and we can tell you this, is that the welcome emails from a library to their new card holders are probably the most opened emails that we've ever seen. The open rates are huge. So this is your chance when these members are still keen to understand what they can do, is to make sure you tell them everything. But don't tell them everything in a single email. Try and tell them in a series of emails, because then they can understand exactly what they can do. And you don't tell them everything in the emails. Each of the emails will link to your website, perhaps. You'll tell them some stuff, and then they can click off of the emails into your website and find out more about what you can do. This is an example of what we do for Las Vegas. We create a form that sits on their website where when somebody wants to join the library, and this was something we created for them during COVID because they wanted as many people as possible to have access to their digital resources. So online, you can come on the Vegas website and you can choose a language. In this case, we pick English. You can register a card for yourself or for your child. You accept the T's and C's. You fill out a form, and many of you will have the self-reg form on your website. We just replace that with our form because it ends up in the same place. It ends up, we create the record in the ILS for the new patron, basically, and they can get the card. And then we'll send out an email recognizing the library card number and the PIN number. So that will get them into the system as a new e-card holder. We can also do full library cards. And something we've also launched is what we have a verification system where we can do identity verification, which means you don't need the patron to come into the branch with ID, because we can use all the same smarts that a bank would do to verify someone's identity online. This is an example from a library you guys may be familiar with, Skokie, or local to you. So if you apply for a Skokie card, this is the form on their website. They then send a series of emails out, I think over a week, talking about all the things you can do, the places, some of the people, and some smiley faces of staff members here, which I love, and some of the digital stuff. Sorry, I skipped on there. So some of the digital stuff. And obviously, if you click on these, it takes you to a page on the website where you can explore more about what you can do with your Skokie card. So that's the concept there of actually educating people over a series of emails over the period of a week, all the things you can do with your card. And I think as a result, what they're finding is that people are starting to do more things with their card than they perhaps would have done initially. I mentioned verification. This is this online identity check, and this can be used in two ways, either for new people when they're signing up for a card, allows you to give them a full card without asking them to come in with proof of address. It saves the patron time, it saves you guys time as well, but it's a much better experience for the patron. If all they want to do is to use your digital resources, why have them come downtown to then get back in the car again, to go home and then download something from Overdrive? And it's more like an experience they would have in other industries, and it costs pennies. It's much cheaper than actually having a staff member at the desk completing a form and checking someone's identity. And without the patron having to come in, it's obviously during COVID as well, it's also from a public health perspective, means people can stay home. So actually it's been a really popular service that we've added to the Patron Point range of services, certainly during and post-COVID. So one of the things that we do here is we'll check that the address for the patron actually falls within the right service area, for example. If that is the case, then we'll check that using our smarts that they actually, they do live at that address. If they're verified, we create the record in the ILS and send them that welcome email sequence. But if they don't verify, if we can't match them to the address, we simply ask them to come in. We can create the record, and the email will basically say, please, can you come in with some identity and proof of address, which is kind of the process that obviously most people go down already. The point here is that very few people end up in this bucket here on the right-hand side. Most people will go down this path on the left-hand side, which is good. And if you think at the other end of the membership experience and we look at card renewal, any membership organization, it's important to hang on to as many card holders as we can. So we have tools that will help you there as well. And also on the reinstate side of things, trying to get people whose card has lapsed, trying to remind them of all the reasons they should come back in and renew it. So we don't give up just because they haven't renewed their card. We can target them after that. And a lot of our customers have really good success with re-engaging people, but targeting them knowing they've lapsed, as opposed to just sending the broadcast out to everybody. It's a really important part of that. And you can segment that. You can say, you can have local policies maybe that will send people email for a year after their membership has lapsed, and then you purge their data. It's entirely up to you what your local processes are. It means you just don't give up on them. And we can use verification here again, which is an important piece. A lot of our customers use verification so that they don't have to have people come in with proof of identity to renew their card. So that makes a good customer service angle on the back end, but it means you can also hang on to people and renew their cards automatically if you prove they still live at the same address. So that's a good service for people as well. And then the bits around the middle. So these are the bits you do between joining the library and your card expiring, which for most people is a 3-year period. So lots of things you can do with people during that period. We'll just go through some of them and explore maybe some of the key ones here. So these are the majority of those. Obviously, we've spoken about sending newsletters. A lot of people use it to promote events. Again, rising adult here, this is one where we have, again, based on data and based on dates of birth, the ability to automate campaigns to teenagers as they're coming of age, to remind them, or their parents or whatever it might be, to update their cards and apply for an adult card once they come of age. Anniversary, either sending people happy birthdays or happy 5th year of being a library card holder. You can trigger those emails from either dates of birth or create dates or joining dates. Fine free, for any of you that have gone fine free, a lot of our customers use Patron Point to really target and communicate the fact they're going fine free, but maybe if you need people to clear some kind of debt maybe before they become fine free, you can use data to do that also. Engage down here, this is really about engaging people based on digital content. So again, what we spoke about, using circulation or lack of circulation data from any of those digital platforms to target groups of people that aren't using them. Surveys, using Patron Point to send out surveys to effectively engage people. The good idea with surveys is that the results of the surveys will actually stay within Patron Point, so you can then use Patron Point again to group people based on their responses. So effectively reach back out to everybody that said yes to question 3. You know, that type of approach, so you can actually act on the responses rather than see them in a silo somewhere else. And then win-backs. Win-back campaigns are campaigns where you're automatically targeting people who have stopped using the library for a period. So where their membership is kind of lapsing. You know, their card hasn't expired. They're still an active card holder, but they're just not using the library anymore. So we create a calculated field in Patron Point called last use date. And from that, you can then communicate with people automatically, different sequence of emails to try and entice them back in, either to events or to engage with content or sign up to newsletters or whatever it might be, just to really try and get people re-engaged with the brand and using the library again. Something I mentioned earlier is notices, which is really important. You know, I think most of you, your ILS notices look pretty uninspired. They're usually text-based and they're pretty boring. They don't really do much for the brand or for the communication. So what we're able to do with Patron Point is take over the notices from the ILS. This is an example here of a notice that I think came out of Polaris system. And this is a potential equivalent of that from Patron Point. So you can see very branded, lots of imagery. These banners can obviously click through to, you know, the website again. We can bring jacket art onto those notices. We can promote your events on the same notice. We can also promote content and social media. So you can see here where we've turned what effectively is probably the most frequent message your library sends out on a weekly basis into a marketing or a communication opportunity. And a lot of customers are taking us up on that, which is fantastic. Something we're also offering is the ability to promote new content on the holds notices. So for example, you know, based on the title that someone is going to come in and collect, here's some other titles that are in that same genre or by that same author, for example. So again, trying to promote usage of the collection based on the material here. So both of these are much better than the one on the left, and most libraries should aspire to do that type of thing. And then finally, our recommend service, which is our reading recommendation tool set, which is perfectly automated. It's something we developed in conjunction with the guys at ProQuest, and it's powered by their Syndetics Unbound beta. So basically what this does is it gives your customers the opportunity. Here's an example from Dauphin County. For any of you that use Library Aware, you'll be very familiar with the genre. We also have some new ones that we're releasing, but basically a customer can select a subject or subjects plural. You know, in this case, if I select romance, for example, and register for the newsletter, basically without doing anything, that customer will now receive from you an automated recommendation newsletter in the romance genre. You don't need to add or remove titles or create the newsletter itself. It just happens automatically. What we do there is we basically look at the titles added to your collection in that subject matter in the last period, and we take the highly rated ones from the Library Thing reviews and they get promoted. And the idea really is to draw people into the catalog. So if they select romance, for example, this is an example of the romance newsletter that comes out from Dauphin. You know, if you click on the jacket, it takes you into the catalog and you can place a hold right from there. But they didn't have to do anything. That's perfectly automated, that whole newsletter. And if someone selects travel, they'll get this version. And if you select both romance and travel, you get a single newsletter with both your subjects on it. So again, it feels curated, it feels personalized, it's good value for the patron, it's stuff they've opted into and they've subscribed to. It's free, obviously, for them, but it's driving your collection and promoting your brand. So again, just another opportunity to engage with people based on the content you have. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is give you, as you can see, a range of tools that covers that whole customer life cycle, from joining the library to engaging them, informing them, driving use of the library through to renewing their membership. The renewal piece should come naturally. because at that point you should have given them enough reasons to renew their library card that it should be a no-brainer for them to do that. And that's the end of the presentation. Let me just have a quick look here, guys. I've got, this is awesome. Sorry, I shouldn't have read that out. Sorry, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Okay, that's my presentation. I mean, I don't know if anyone has any questions. It is a very popular product, and I know there's so many facets and dimensions to it, so there's probably a range of questions people might have. As I say, if anyone wants to see the product and have a demo of it, we'd be very happy to set up a web demo for you guys individually as a library with your colleagues.
Well, Sarah has a question.
Yeah.
She said, do you have any print mailings to patrons through Patron Point as well?
We don't, no, we don't do print. I mean, basically, we totally respect the need for print because clearly not everybody does digital. You can print the newsletter if you wish and mail it out, but we don't do mailings as such. If you're requiring to, if you mean to have a print version of a newsletter or a print version of that reading recommendations, yes, you can create a print version and you can print it and disperse it how you like, but we don't have a kind of a print fulfillment piece, if that's what you're referring to. Jeff, who's the best person to contact for a web demo? Just contact me. My contact details, dead easy, ian@patronpoint.com, and I'll put you in touch with the right person.
Throw it into the chat real quick.
Yeah, ian@patronpoint.com, and I'll hook you up with the right member of our team that will do the demo for you. Probably going to be Brendan Pierce, if any of you come across Brendan. He was with me at Collection HQ as well, so I stole him.
No, Brendan was actually supposed to do our presentation today, but I think he had a conflict, so you stepped in. So thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome. I apologize if I've overrun. I think we're quite close on time, but I just wanted to make sure.
You're perfectly well within time, and we have a lot of time for questions. So I know a lot of people were curious about Patron Point, and our libraries here in Illinois have engaged or used their services quite yet. Fountaindale definitely has. We use your renewal service. We just started the online library card application, and we've been sending out the due date reminders as well through Patron Point.
I think one of the things, just to maybe prompt some other questions, I think what we've tried to do with Patron Point, with those round of, the proven programs, if you like, is each of you have got different challenges. There's a backdrop of COVID, post-COVID, and I think we're seeing a lot of the libraries saying, okay, we want to try and get people back in. So there's an education, we're open, and this is what we're doing, so this is how you can come back in. But I think even amongst that, there'll be different libraries. Some people have got a newsletter that they've kind of continued throughout COVID and have had it for years, and that's okay. Keep doing that. That's fine. If you're welcoming new members to the library, it's always a good idea to try and inform consistently. Because we did this exercise where we got several staff at one of our user meetings, and we said, right, everybody turn their back. Go over there and write down all the things that I can do at your library, and then come back to the table and we'll have a go through them. And we went through them, and you wouldn't be surprised how even people from the same library had completely different lists of what you could do at the library. Things were missing on everybody's list. Some people didn't know we did that, and we stopped doing that 3 years ago, and no, we didn't. There's just this level of understanding. So if they weren't on the same page, how can their customers be? So we thought, well, okay, with a welcome, at least you kind of set the scene for new customers coming in. But I think, it's very hard when you're close to something to understand that your customers don't see that. And we've got the data. Question here, let's have a look.
Yeah, so Emily says, you mentioned tools. I think she's referring to the win-back campaigns.
Yes, yeah,
to get people back in the library. And do you help with the ideas for what we can do? Also, I love your full notices.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, thanks, Emily. No, the tools to get people back in. So, okay, I mean, one of the good ideas and one of the good things we've got is we've got a really active community of customers, and you know what it's like, right? Libraries love sharing, and if you get one person that's done something great, they'll love to tell everyone. So we've just hired someone really, really cool. She's excellent, Kathy. She's running our community. And what Kathy does is runs webinars where people come on, and all she says is, "Hi everybody, it's Kathy here. Thanks. We've got so and so here today to talk to you about what she's done that's really amazing this month." And everybody just shares their ideas. So I think in terms of what tools have you got to get people back in, the worst thing you can do, and this is genuine, is tell people what they already know. So what you have to start doing is, as I said earlier, is you've got so many hooks, but it's like, if you've got a guy that loves fly fishing, he'd love to know you've got a new fly fishing book, but 99% of your customers don't care. So what you've got to try and do is understand what floats everybody's boat. And you can't do that without the tools, without the data, because you'd be crafting an individual message to every single patron by hand every time, and you can't do that. So what marketing automation does is what they call its personalization at scale. So it allows you to take data, segment people into natural groups. So for example, if you've got people that maybe have used, let's say, for example, Hoopla, but have never tried Canopy, there's an affinity there. Those people should probably look at using, they might know Canopy's digital, it might be in the same genre, it might be something they might be interested in. But if you've got people that have already used Canopy, don't tell them about Canopy, tell them about something else, because that hook is, they are aware of that hook and they've stopped using Canopy. So what else are we going to tell them? So it's about understanding all of those different groups of people and saying something quite specific to them. So what we would say with Winback is maybe define half a dozen sales pitches for why the library is cool. And you can send all 6 to everybody, but don't send all 6 to people that fall into a category that clearly rules that out. So it might be about programming. If you've got someone that's a regular attendee at programming, if they've suddenly stopped coming to the programming, it's probably because your programming wasn't for them. It's not they weren't aware you ran programming, it just sort of stopped becoming interesting for them. So tell them about your digital stuff, tell them about X, Y, and Z, tell them about something else. You've got some new book, tell them about the newsletter they can sign up for, tell them about your social media, tell them about the recommendations, newsletters you've got on offer. So I think it's more about just trying to understand that you can profile customers dead easy into big buckets. You can get very small buckets as well. You can get people born in 1976 that match this exact profile, but you probably don't want to be doing that. You want to try and start like an onion, like just peeling layers off until you get to the bit. So that's the question there. I see another question here.
Jean Harrison from Patron Point. How long has Patron Point? I mean, Jean Harrison from Naperville. It's from Patron Point. How long has Patron Point been on the market? Also, what issues have you had, if any, with getting libraries started with Patron Point?
Yeah, okay, good question. Thanks for that, Jean. No, so Patron Point itself has been on the market for 2 years. We're probably getting somewhere close to 6 libraries a week subscribing. Probably the fastest growing vendor in library land right now. You know, having set up Collection HQ, I know it never grew like this and up grew huge. This is growing really quickly. I think the challenges we face are technical challenges in terms of understanding how the data plumbs together. So ILS is not a problem. You know, if you're on a Sierra or Polaris or Cersei Dynamics or whatever type of ILS you're on, not an issue. I think some libraries struggle because the IT infrastructure is at the city. So how do you edit your website? Some libraries can't touch their website. They have to get someone in town hall to change the page. So sometimes there's issues around that. So things like getting a joining form on the website for some libraries is dead easy because the guy that runs the website sat in the same room. Sometimes the people are sat in a different county in your consortium. So sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. We do work with huge consortium. I think the biggest issue, I would say, with getting people on Patron Point is bureaucracy within a library. We've got a few customers who've had the product. I won't mention any names, certainly none of you guys, so you're all in the clear. You guys are good guys. There are some libraries who take forever to get off the dime when it comes to approving their newsletter. You know, oh, I don't like that image. Well, I quite like it. I don't like that. I like this. We need a full stop there. The comma's in the wrong place, and we should say that a different way. And so things take so long that the June newsletter goes out in December, and then they realize they need to wish people happy Christmas. You know, so it's like the whole thing just, the wheels come off. So things like a welcome newsletter, you know, our approach is, you're never going to perfect this to start with. You have to get off the dime. You have to start saying welcome to the library in a way that makes it simple, and you can evolve it. Don't spend 3 years perfecting that message. because you've got 3 years worth of people that joined the library that didn't get anything in the interim. So I think it comes down to change in a library. I mean, you guys all know, whatever you buy, whether it be Patron Point, a new ILS, or a new book vendor, or whatever it happens to be, change is painful, right? No one likes change. I think the key here, and this is the really, really key bit, is all of your customers are familiar with being communicated by all sorts of brands, because you are at home, right? You get home, you open your laptop, look on your phone, whatever it might be, you're getting emails from all these different businesses or organizations that you belong to, that you opt into. This is no privacy issue here. This is you've said, I'm happy to receive it, and if you're not, stop. So you have to accept they are consumers out there, and they're being contacted regularly by lots of other brands. You're not offending them, you're helping them, you're trying to educate them about all the wonderful stuff that you turn up for work to do in the morning. So let's get off the dime and let's try and evolve this message, and let's engage them. And we'll get the data back, and we'll be able to share you in the community. As I said, 70 to 80% of welcome emails are opened. That's a fantastic opportunity. If you look at most emails, it's about 13%, 13%. 80%, 80% of welcome emails are opened. That's a huge number. Tell your story. Take the opportunity. You've got the microphone. You're on stage. Tell people the story. So what we're saying to people is take that opportunity. Tell what you can tell, and you can change that up over time. You can perfect that message over time. You're not going to nail it. Don't spend 3 months, 6 months, 9 months trying to nail that message. So I think to answer the question, getting libraries started, sometimes it's libraries themselves are struggling, and we can't make them be ready. We can't say that's good enough, send it. You know, you can imagine. There is some time, but we can share best practice. That's what these proven programs are about. You know, I can show you, our account managers can show you, our Kathy from the community can show you 400 different welcome emails from different libraries around the world. Some of them are great, some of them, none of them are poor. The one that doesn't send one's the worst one. That's what I would suggest. So I think that's the challenge we're in. Those libraries just don't do anything. So that's where we're at. What else have we got? Let's have a look and see if there's any questions.
Sarah had a question, but I know Anne Marie Thomas, you had your hand up. Did you want to ask a question?
No, somehow I raised my hand in error.
Oh, that's totally fine.
That's okay. And then Sarah says, how customizable are the newsletters and engagement tools? Everything. So here's a good example, right? So the welcome newsletter, we can give you one that says, dear Ian, welcome to the library, with a library logo at the top and signed by library director, and an image and some social media icons at the bottom. So we can give you that. I would suggest you want to do better than that. From there, it's entirely up to you. You can drop images in. You can, if any of you have used a product like Constant Contact or MailChimp or any of these kind of email editing tools, at the heart of Patron Point is a better, I think it's better, email editor. So it's drag and drop, you upload images, you change, you type everything in. You basically, so you'll notice, you'll hold pickup notice, you type what you want it to say, you upload images. For things like dragging in events, for example, so some of our bigger systems who've got, let's say, 50 branches, they might only want to promote events at the pickup location, not across the branch, because they've got a huge network of libraries and people don't want to travel across the county to go to different events. So we can do that. So we can put a node in our notices that say, if pickup location equals library X, show library events at location X only, or locations X, Y, and Z, but not A, B, and C. So that's pure. If you think about what Patron Point really is, it's an email tool which has got data backing it. And I can send this email, I won't blow your minds, but there's a thing called dynamic content, which effectively means I could send everyone on this call one email and you'd all get something different based on what I knew about you. And that's what dynamic content allows me to do. That's what marketing automation offers, that personalization at scale. I could send one email, if library name equals X, put logo Y in the top of that email, and everybody sees a different email. And it's not magic, it's just data. And it's just, that's how the world works. And obviously, if you're the recipient of that email, you have no idea that that's what's happening, because you just see the one you see. The idea is, and the concept is, to make it relevant to you based on what we know about you. So just a good example is my wife and I, we both go to a gym. We belong to a membership club here. My wife goes to like programs, so she'll go to like maybe yoga, and she'll do some Pilates classes and stuff like that. I'm not that flexible, so I don't do any of that stuff. So, but my newsletter from the gym starts at the top with the gym logo at the top, so I know it's from the gym, and it comes down. It says, "Hey Ian," and hers says, "Hey Karen." her newsletter then goes on to some of the programs they're running, some of the courses and the classes that she can attend, and interviews with, like, say, some of the yoga instructors or some, and then it signs off. Mine comes and says, oh, here's some of the new PT instructors we have and some of the new programs on the treadmill, and we've got this new elliptical running machine or bike, because I use that type of equipment in the gym. I know that no one sat there and actually typed that email out to me manually. It's basically programmatic. It's saying Ian uses the treadmill, Karen goes to the classes, send her that version. We both get an email that's, if I got Karen's email, I would delete it because I'm not interested in the slightest in it, and she would delete mine too. But it's about trying to engage people with relevant content automatically, and that's what you guys can do. But you're not offending anyone. If you think about it, people sometimes say, "What about privacy?" Well, I'm opting in, aren't I? So I've given you my data so you can opt in. I'm not upsetting me. I'm making sure that you don't bombard me with stuff I'm just going to delete. I'm making sure you can send something. There you go. You're in Scotland. We need to see Scottish countryside as your background. That's Scotland here. We have a particularly sunny day in Scotland today. Let's get back to the beach. No, that's because we don't have weather like that in Scotland, and otherwise I would be depressed. That's me on the beach. That's the closest I get to sunshine, I'm afraid. West coast of Scotland, where we have rain all the time. So yeah, I mean, I think Patron, I know that sounds quite corny, but Patron Point is whatever you want it to be. Obviously, within Fountaindale, you've got access within Fountaindale to that whole wheel of services. You can use any of those tools that you want to. You'll pick and choose the ones that are most appropriate to get started with, and eventually you'll tick all the boxes. You'll hopefully be doing them all. Why wouldn't you want to do some of that stuff? But you don't pay more or less for any of those services. They're all included. Some of you will want to get started with notices. Some of you will want to get started with welcome emails. Some of you want to get started with a newsletter. It's really down to where you're at as a library. But during the demo, we can explore some of that with you and probably get a little bit more. We tend to do the demo in two pieces. We tend to do an overview demo where we can get to do some of this type stuff and just talk to your teams. And then we have a dive into the product as a separate call. So you can actually see the back end, see how we edit emails. There's no point starting with that because a lot of your colleagues will be like, what is this again? He's pushing buttons on the screen. What is he doing? He's changing an email. It's like, well, okay. So we try and talk about the concepts first. Everyone's on the same page, and then we get into the product. If that makes sense. But again, it's free, and anyone wants to take us up on that, we're very happy to do that for you guys.
I did have a question, Ian.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of libraries in Illinois, we're used to using like the national change of address to verify like new patrons that move into our communities and stuff. And you talk about Verify, and I know that's a different service. So how is it comparable to national change of address? And also, like, if it's, in your personal opinion, do you think it's better than using that to verify patrons?
Absolutely. Of course it is. It's our service. No, good question. I think I'll tell you why we did this, right? Why we built this was we had one customer in Connecticut, a library called Ferguson. If any of you know Ferguson in Connecticut, Alice Knapp, they're the president. Alice has been a long-term friend of mine, and she bought Collection HQ from me years ago as a customer. She's been a Patron Point customer for Daydot as well. She was one of our beta customers 4 years ago before we launched the business in flesh. What Alice and her team were doing was asking people, they had this other service they used where people had to upload a copy of their driver's license using a cell phone to the library. And Alice said, we feel a bit uncomfortable with that because I don't know where those images get stored and who in my staff has access to them and when we delete them. And that's personal information that we probably don't have a place for. They get stored on a desktop. So Alice said, could you help? And we're like, well, yeah, probably there's got to be better ways of doing it. So what we really wanted to get to is we wanted to get to a position where the patron really didn't have to do anything other than fill a form in. So our process, if you think about it, so imagine, so one of our consortia, the way it works for a consortia is they go to a form, they fill out their address, and we see the address and go, oh, wait, you need to join this library in that consortia. There's 60 libraries in the group. That's the one you need to join where you live, not the one where you work, because it would be more convenient, but you need to join the one where you're resident. Okay, so we pick that first off. If you're in New York, what do you see? Because Los Angeles, one of our customers said during COVID, they gave out so many e-cards for people using their digital stuff that didn't even live in California. It was untrue. That's costing them money because as soon as you start hitting buffers on Canopy and stuff, you're paying for that. They don't even pay taxes in the state, let alone the city. So one of their challenges was actually then proving not just that you were in the right jurisdiction, that you actually lived where you said you lived. So to your point about change of address, there's a number of ways of doing that, obviously, but I think for our perspective, the tools that we use are they're basically the same tools that a bank would use to verify the address. So basically, without anybody doing anything, we call an API with a data verification partner who will effectively say, we've looked at driver's license files, we've looked at cell phone records, we've looked at bank statements. There is no bank account or a cell phone account or a driver's license on file with a more up-to-date address than the one you're presenting here today. So we think that's the latest address for that person. You're good to give them a library card. It's the same data that a bank would issue a loan on the basis of. We can give them a library card, no problem. So the good news is that we can fine tune the kind of like the confidence in that data. What we don't want to be doing is basically rejecting everybody because we need them to have lived somewhere for at least 15 years, because it's going to be a very small subset of your audience. But what we don't want to do in some college towns, like where Alice was in Ferguson and Stamford in Connecticut, they get lots of college people moving in and out of the place. And the trouble with that is if you just moved into the town and you don't have an address on file for more than 6 months, then you're going to get rejected because you're going to turn up with a driver's license and you haven't got a utility bill yet or whatever it might be. So I think that your cell phone is still registered back to your parents' address. So what we found was a kind of a happy medium, and so we're able to get somewhere close to 80% of people pass that test. If you set it too loosely, that they've got at least one of those pieces of information on file for 4 weeks or more, you get 100% people through, but there'll be more people that shouldn't perhaps have one of those. So I think the process works for us. What Alice was more interested in wasn't necessarily the new ones, because yeah, you've got new people joining the library, but it's a very small percentage of your customer base you're affecting that way. Yeah, it saves the new guys time. The renewal piece, I don't know, many of you have a library card that expires every 3 years. So if you think every year, a third of your customers should come into the library to re-up their card. That's a lot of people heading to a branch somewhere. It's a lot of staff time. And it's a lot of hassle for people that really still live where they want to do and just want to carry on using their card. But what Alice was confident of is she was saying a lot of people don't come back in. They'll wait until the summer when they want to go on vacation and check out a book to take on vacation before they come in and re-up their card, or for summer reading for their kids or whatever. They'll lapse their membership for 3, 4, 5, 6 months until the summer if their card expired at Christmas time. So if Alice is board at the city say, how many members do you have? She's like, what, you mean really or actually? So I reckon they're all going to come back in. They always do. But these are the only cards I've got signed. So their membership kind of becomes seasonal. Whereas if you can renew people knowing that they still live where they should be, you can send them, you can tell them their card's been re-upped and you retain their membership throughout. So from a statistical point of view and from a library card membership point of view, it's all good. So if she can keep topping the new ones up and keep the old ones members, her membership base grows rather than, becomes a sort of sawtooth where you join members, lose members, join them, lose them, join them, losing. So what she's found is that her membership base is more continuous, more constant throughout the year. And as a result, she can go to someone says, are you going to have to look at your budgets this year? She says, I don't think so. Go talk to these guys over here because library's still providing great value. Look at all the memberships we've got. So I think that verify thing, it proves very, very popular. And I think for patrons as well, the guy in Brooklyn said to me, he said, I know, he said, it's embarrassing that we have to ask people to come in. Like they need to bring both grandparents with them as well. It's like ridiculous. We're just asking them to join the library. It's like, can we do this a smarter way? And for them, the numbers, I'll tell you now, no secrets in here, right? So if you want to verify someone with us, the cost to do that verification at the most, depending on how many you're doing, the maximum cost is 30 cents, 30 cents. You do not get much staff time at a desk for 30 cents. You don't. So for someone to stand at the desk, going through someone's purse, pulling out a driver's license, and then going into the ILS and changing or updating the record, we do all of that as part of the verification process. Obviously, update the ILS expiration date and send the patron the new renewal email. Congratulations, your card has been renewed. Your new expiry date is here for 30 cents maximum. That's just one. If you just want to do one, if you want to do hundreds or thousands, the price comes down. But you don't get a lot of staff time for 30 cents. So that's the deal, right? So Alice was saying, we just can't, why would we not do this? Just doesn't make sense. And then the patrons, like, you could have saved me coming downtown for 30 cents if you, yeah, take it. I'll give you the 30 cents. Save me having to come downtown.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We went a little bit over, but obviously I put Ian's email address in the chat. I'll put mine in if anyone wants to reach out to me. I know Patron Point, and this is the last question. I know Patron Point is constantly growing, just because you're a new company as well, just a few years old. Are there any services that libraries can look forward to that you're trying to roll out in the future?
Any services we're rolling out in the future, we're trying to just keep building on what we've got. And I think one of the things that we found is everything that we've done that's new, like the verifiers, come from our customers. I think the next stage of evolution of this is really just, I mean, we already do things like SMS, we're already doing social media, we're obviously doing website stuff. You can post, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff I could show you on the demo, how we create web pages and things. I think we probably do a lot more than I've shown you already. So there's probably a lot of stuff that we've already built that most libraries don't even use. And I'm sure even as a customer, you know, I mean, you're not using our product to build web pages or create forms or little pop-up forms on the website when someone's leaving your web page. Hey, join the library. Hey, sign up for our newsletter. Those kind of things are already there. So I think our ambition is to have every customer using our product fully as it is, rather than trying to build any more, because otherwise it just becomes too big. We just want to be experts at what we do. So I think our ambition is to kind of double down, is to grow the community, to have libraries with a really vibrant community of marketing people that are all talking to each other, building best practice, engaging customers, using the data. So I think that's it. There's always development, and we were building lots of new connectors to new platforms, new ILSs, third-party systems are bringing in all the time. But yeah, there's enough out there to, I don't want to commit our development team to more stuff. They've got enough on their plate as it is.
No, thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
really
cool.
appreciate it.
Great. Lovely speaking with you. Thanks very much for your time, guys.
Of course. Have a great one.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you everyone for joining
Bye.
today.
What did you guys think?
Went really well. Oh, let me stop the recording.